Okay. Welcome to the Town of Avon Advisory Plan Commission meeting. If you are interested in having a copy of the agenda, they are available on the tables to the right of the audience. We will be conducting business as outlined on the agenda. From time to time, the board may deviate from the agenda. As president of this body, I will inform those in attendance of any deviations. Excuse me. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that personal conversations are kept to a minimum and that all cell phones are set to vibrate. Any phone calls should be taken outside of the chambers. This will be a good time to take care of your phones. If you are interested in commenting during the public hearing portion of the commission's deliberations, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to the staff or to the petitioner. Your comments should relate directly to the case at hand. During the conduct of the public hearing portion of the commission's deliberations, the petitioner will have 10 minutes to present their case to the commission. Remonstrators will have 10 minutes to present objections to the petition. Persons in support of the petition, other than the petitioner, will have 10 minutes to present support for the petition. And finally, the petitioner will close the public hearing portion of the presentation with a 5-minute rebuttal period. Once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony will be heard unless it is solicited by the members of the commission during the question and answer phase of the commission's deliberations. Subdivision plat and development plat petitions are ministerial requests, meaning that if the proposal meets the requirements set forth in the town's development ordinances, the Plan Commission must approve the request. In the interest of transparency, state law requires that the Plan Commission hold a public hearing even if the development proposal must be approved. Responses to public comments and questions may be given once the public hearing portion is closed. We understand that there may be several or more than several persons who wish to speak this evening. In order to keep the meeting running in a timely fashion, we would request that you not repeat previous comments. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to the Plan Commission meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's get going. Let's do a roll call.
Paul Guggenberger.
Here.
Catherine Ransberg.
Here.
Greg Zusen.
Present.
Dave Kaufman.
Here.
Bill Reed. Robert Pope. Absent. Mason Pike. Absent. We have
a quorum. Have all the members of the commission had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes, and are there any suggested edits or changes?
I've given Bill and Ian a couple of changes. One was on the time of one of the minutes where you opened public comment and closed it. And then the other one was just on the agenda. The date of the approval of the minutes are 11/28 versus 10/24.
Okay. We need to make a motion to amend do I have a motion to amend the
Make a
meeting?
motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting minutes are approved. Moving on. This would be the time for public comments related to items that are not on tonight's agenda. If anybody present would like to speak about anything that is not on the agenda for this evening, now would be the time to come forward. Is there anybody who would like to speak on anything not already on the agenda? Okay, Public comments hearing is closed. Mr. Peoples, do we have any continuances or agenda modifications?
Yeah, we have one request for a continuance. May 16 on your agenda, the second item on the old business part of the agenda, Countryside Estates, primary plat, which is located at approximately 7900 East County Road 100 North. They are still redesigning. As you're aware, the commission started hearing this, at least did one public hearing on this petition at the last meeting. And they requested, or they had a waiver request that was denied. And the petitioner is still in redesign, trying to determine how to get 2 access points for this particular piece of property. And so they need a continuance to the January, 23rd meeting.
My only question on this petition is, they initially were asking for a waiver of 2 access points.
Right.
And talking to the Director of Public Works, he doesn't want 2 access points. We want 1. So I don't know if we've kind of lost our way through this discussion or not. So my only concern is if he wants to have more time to continue this, to create 2 access points.
Yeah,
I mean, 1 person, but I don't think we need 2 access points.
yeah, but they did request the 1 access point, and the Plan Commission did deny that waiver. Now they have the opportunity to refile, and maybe they do that. I don't know. There's nothing in the rules of procedure that would prohibit them from refiling a waiver and having that waiver reheard and do a better job of explaining why they need the waiver. They haven't done that yet, and they haven't filed revised plans with 2 access points. I know that they are working on at least some possibilities that include 2 access points on 100 North.
So they will have to file a waiver though, because the ordinance requires 2 access points.
Well, they have a conceptual plan that I've seen that has 2 access points on 100 North separated by 1,200 feet. But they're still designing that to try to make it work.
Is
That's
the
the issue.
1,200 feet smaller, less than the amount that's generally required?
No, that's the same. That
It
is
is
the
the same,
minimum.
okay.
Yeah, that's a minimum that's required that they have to go over on the adjoining property. They don't have enough room on the property
That's what I was
itself
remembering.
to do that
Right.
separation. So they have an opportunity to move the access point onto as far west as they can get it, and then go through the Kingsway Church property to gain a second access point 1,200 feet away from that westernmost access point. And that's what they're looking at right now. But they need to do more engineering analysis on it to make it work.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for continuance of this agenda item?
I move that we continue MAPP 22-16 Countryside Estates primary plat to the January Plan Commission meeting.
Your second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is not the appropriate time for that, sir.
All right, great. You guys really are here for pizza.
Okay.
And that's the only continuance request that we have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to old business.
First item on old business is map P 214 or Avon primary plat, formerly called or at least filed under the name Oaks of Avon. And this is a request for approval of a primary subdivision to subdivide 20.49 acres into 43 lots for a single-family residential development. Again, the property is about 20.49 acres, zoned R2, and is located at approximately 1450 North Avon Avenue. No zoning history on this site. When the property was brought into the town, it was zoned R2. This is the location of the property right here at the fringes of the corporate limits. It has an existing single-family residential subdivision within the town located to the west and south, and then a existing single-family residential subdivision to the north and east, and those are within the jurisdiction of Hendricks County. As indicated, it's a request for a primary plat approval subdividing this property into 20.49, into 43 single-family lots. That's a density of about 2.1 units an acre. The property gains direct access from Avon Avenue at 43 lots. It's only required to have one access point to the public street system. The proposed access is located nearly equidistant from the two existing access points, both to the north and to the south, that are on the same side of the street. The petitioner does propose to use the enhanced architectural standards of the ordinance to develop this subdivision, and those standards allow them to increase could allow them to increase the maximum density from 3 units, which is the current cap in the R2 district, to 4 units an acre, decrease the minimum lot size from 12,500 square feet to 7,200 square feet, and reduce the minimum lot width from 80 feet to 60 feet. Also, the side yard setbacks get reduced from 7 feet to 6 feet using the enhanced architectural standards. In this particular request, the petitioner has not utilized the density bonus. They come in at about 2.09, 2.1 units an acre. And that's well below the 3 units an acre that they would be allowed to use using the base architectural standards. The petitioner also has not utilized the lot width bonus. All the lot widths are consistent with the current R2 standards. But there are 22 of the lots that are slightly less than the 12,500 that the ordinance requires. And while the ordinance does allow them a reduction down to 7,200 square feet, the lots that they propose to reduce really range anywhere between 10,729 square feet and 12,180 square feet. So they're pretty close to what's required by the ordinance as it is. To do that, they have submitted 26 proposed models for review under those enhanced architectural standards. The staff has reviewed them. And of those, 6 of the proposed elevations would not have qualified for use in the development. 3 would be, you'd be able to use them, but only along the 5 lots along Avon Avenue, because those 5 lots get a point because of the 30-foot strip of common area in between the road and the back of the lots. And then the balance of those the remainder of the submitted elevations can be used anywhere in the development. The proposed plat is consistent with the standards of the Unified Development Ordinance. This is the general layout of it. Pond in the southwest corner here. This is the access point. It's, like I said, about equidistant from a curb cut that's basically here and one that's right down here. One access point with 2 cul-de-sacs and a sort of an eyebrow cul-de-sac right here. We do recommend approval of this petition. It meets the standards of the ordinance. We do have it subject to the 6 conditions you see up on the board. Those are the 3 standard conditions that we have, but then we also have the limitation on the elevations that can be used within the subdivision. The 3 elevations that can be used along the Avon Avenue or the Blair, the Charles, and the Keaton elevations, and then the elevations that can be used anywhere within the subdivision of the Bayberry, Blake, Clay, Delaney, Everett, Foster, Redfield, Grandin, Quinn, Turner, Paxton, Keeler, Stanton, Leland, Marshall, Andover, and Bradford elevations. And then the landscape plan does need to be amended to show 14 shade trees along Avon Avenue as a parkway landscaping. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Question I have, they elected not to use the enhanced architectural standards that we've given them. So if we approve it the way it's been submitted and they want to come back later and reduce that lot size, can they do that? Or they have to do it the way it's been approved tonight?
Well, they could reduce the lot size. They couldn't increase the lot count. So when you guys approve it, I mean, the ordinance would allow them to, as long as they maintain the same lot count, to reduce the lot size if they need to. And a lot of times we see that, in that the pond needs to be a little bit bigger, so they lose some of their land, so that they have to reduce some of the lot sizes in there to accommodate that. And they have the ability to do that, but the lot count would stay the same. They could not increase the density without coming back to the commission for approval.
And do I read this correctly that there are no requests for waivers on this?
Nope, no waivers.
It's almost becoming a pattern.
Let's hope.
Any further questions for staff? Okay. That being said, we will ask the petitioner to come forward.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Rob Hayes, Hayes, 3940 Olympic Boulevard, Suite 400, Erlanger, Kentucky, 41018, for Grand Communities and Fisher Homes. Mr. Peebles' explanation was very thorough. I do not have anything else to add, but if you have any questions, I'm here to answer questions, as is our engineer, Ryan Rosen, and our land acquisition manager as well.
I looked at all your handouts here of the different models that you have, and it only shows the front elevation of the house. And we have a monotonous policy here. What do the sides look like and the rears look like? Because if you drive down a lot of new developments and you see the back of the houses, they're all the same. So we've taken care of the monotony in the front, but not on the back and on the side. Can you address that?
Fisher Homes is very proud of our variety of our home designs and our elevations, and we will submit side and rear elevations as well as we continue through the process.
Maybe follow up and just to ask a little further. So with that, are there windows on the sides? Because typically you see a lot of houses, windows in front, windows in the back, and very few on the sides. Can you answer that?
Yes, sir. There are windows on all four sides.
Okay. One or just a couple? So I'm kind of trying to, again, is it a wall with one window, or does it depend on the type of the design of the house?
It depends on the design of the house, but in the designer and masterpiece product lines, there would be multiple windows.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
And the other thing on those side windows, usually there could be two or we'll say three, one's on one and two on this side, and all you do is you flip it and go two on the left side and and one on the right. Will it be a little bit more appealing than that?
I cannot speak to the specific window patterns on each plan this evening, but we can provide that information.
Any further questions for the petitioner?
Maybe just a comment, and you've kind of alluded to this earlier. It's nice to see a design that doesn't request a waiver, that's coming in, working with the staff and the ordinances. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, we have a new UDO, and we greatly appreciate you taking the time to familiarize yourself and adapt to our requirements as a community. If you'd like to have a seat, we'll get to public comment.
Thank you for your consideration.
Turn on your mic.
Okay. If there's anybody present who would like to speak to this particular agenda item, if you have not already, you need to sign on the sheet that Ian has there. Ian, who's our first,
I've got a whole lot of names, but they have to indicate the case number they wish to speak.
Okay, why don't you read the names, and if they're asking to speak this is just for this agenda item right now, so.
Carol Barlow?
That's not this agenda. I put the number down.
Oh, yeah. I got it. John Schultz.
Not for this agenda.
Okay,
Terry Erickson?
not this one.
Donna Marshall?
No.
Gary and Rhonda Cassidy?
No.
Okay.
Is there anybody who did not sign up who would like to speak to this agenda item? Okay, ma'am, come forward. State your name and address.
Janine Fiddler, 6894 Merritt Ridgeway, Avon, Indiana. I just wondered if you guys had considered the street width, the distance between the driveways, the mailbox locations, and on-street parking, because the subdivision we live in, we have had ongoing for 20-plus years of problems with people parking on the street regularly, and then it's hard to back up. You have to be very careful, and there are times during the seasons when the sun changes and you can't see what's coming, whether it's a school bus, kids in the street, other cars coming. And I just wondered if you guys thought about that, because currently, at the moment, we have a request in with the town about helping us remove a car that has been in an accident. And I don't think it's drivable at the moment. The front end is all messed up. And my husband, who is the HOA manager or president at the moment, he requested them and gave them a week to do something with it, hoping that maybe with finances and stuff, they'd have time to get it moved, but it's still there. And at least 5 days ago, he came to the town asking the code enforcement to have that addressed, because pretty soon we're going to have snow, and the town will come through and try to do snow removal, and that car will be sitting there. So I just wondered if you guys considered this with this new subdivision. Thank you.
Next. So there's someone else. Sir, would you like to speak?
Thank you. My name is Dan Stevens. I live at 6754 White Oak Drive in Oakland. And my question has to do with, and I don't know if it's been clarified or not, there's a significant tree line that goes around this property. And I'd kind of like to know what the developers plan to do with that tree line, whether they want to leave it in place or plan on removing some of the trees, because there's some pretty big trees that provide significant homes for wildlife, shade, all kinds of things. I think even the people in Manors of Avon would like to have those in their backyard. Thank you.
Is there anybody else present who would like to speak on this particular agenda item? If not, public comments are closed. We invite the petitioner to come forward to address the two questions that were presented.
Regarding mailbox locations and on-street parking, typically the United States Post Office has required that we move to cluster mailboxes, which are then located in one central location within the community. So that would reduce that issue on the street as well, or that should reduce that issue on the street. And then regarding tree lines, it would be our goal to retain as many trees as possible. Certainly our residents, that's a benefit to our home sites as well. So we would do our best to retain trees as possible.
Can you address the question about street width?
Our engineer, Ryan, from Y Engineering is here, and he can address that.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Hello, Ryan Rosen from Y Engineers. Yeah, street width does meet the town UDO standards. So that's what we were meeting on this.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Discussion? Discussion.
I was going to ask, Bill, could you elaborate on the street width when we talk about meeting the street, the UDO ordinance, what that means, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, well, we have some options on the street width. Most people avail themselves of like a 28-foot wide street width, which has a 2-foot curb on either side, obviously. So you end up, or a foot and a half curb. So you end up having somewhere between 24 and 26 feet. It's typically enough to get 2 lanes of traffic. Occasionally, we run into issues with on-street parking on those narrower streets. But it's preferable to have the narrower street sections just because of maintenance costs on them.
And because we've had extensive conversations in prior meetings on street width, that the fire department takes a look at street width and they also weigh in on that to make sure that there's enough room to get the fire engines down. So there'd be the width for a fire engine and a school bus.
Yeah, I mean, the streets are designed to allow that. Where we run into issues, especially with the school buses, is when you do have a lot of on-street parking and the school buses have a little trouble maneuvering when you have on-street parking on both sides of the street. But the school has weighed in on this one. They've reviewed it. They've established bus stops, a bus stop location in this subdivision so that their buses can come in, pick up kids, and then get out without running into too much trouble.
All right, thank you.
Is there, I don't know what subdivision this lady lives in, so I don't know what the width of their streets are compared to the width of this development. So I don't know if the town approved that development or the county approved the development.
I think
and
that-
had different standards.
That I mean, that one I don't know. I thought Oak Bend was in the town, and the other 2 subdivisions to the north and to the east are in the county.
Right. I was just talking about that Woodland Heights, her subdivision, where she indicated there were traffic issues. I didn't know what the width of those streets are compared to what we're going to have in this development here. If this was wider, the same.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
Do you know if there's been a significant change, generally speaking, with regards to street widths in the new UDO versus?
No. So it's a standard specification Public Works maintains. And it used to be in the subdivision control ordinance. There were standards in the subdivision control ordinance, but it didn't allow flexibility for Public Works to change some of the standards. So we took out a lot of the details out of the subdivision control ordinance when we adopted the new UDO, and we left them as standard specifications that the Public Works maintains. But there haven't been significant changes. I know that have been historically some concerns about street widths in Avon, just because of the on-street parking narrowing down the travel lanes. But when Public Works has looked at that, they were concerned about the maintenance costs associated with creating much wider streets. Because the wider streets require significantly more pavement when they put a top coat or something on. So they've been reluctant to encourage wider street sections in the town.
Okay.
The other question regarding the mailboxes, if I heard the petitioner, he says they're going to have cluster mailboxes. You're not going to have a mailbox for each resident, either on one side of the street or the other.
If you could approach.
It is our preference typically to have mailboxes in the street. However, the United States Post Office has required all new developments in the country to have cluster mailboxes. Therefore, when we submit for approval, we have to have that approved by the United States Post Office. They typically require us to have cluster mailboxes, typically within 1 block per the Postal Operations Manual.
How many cluster mailboxes will there be in this development?
There are typically 16 boxes per unit. And so we have,
3?
it would be 3. It would be 3. Yes, ma'am.
So with that new information, do we need to take that as part of our consideration? Okay.
Again, the only question is whether it meets our ordinance.
Then the other question regarding the tree line. I don't know, Bill, if we have this letter from a resident that couldn't make the meeting tonight, and the three things he talked about was the tree line. So, and then this gentleman had the same comment. So can you address that? Do you plan on taking any trees out? Because I don't know if some of this is wetland or not, or just shrub brush.
Obviously, when we clear the site, there will likely be some trees that are removed. We will follow all regulations regarding wetlands. And as we continue to move through the process and understand our grading limits, that would determine what trees would be removed. However, it would be our goal to retain as many trees as possible.
Would it be beneficial to talk to the landowners that are in Oak Bend that have used or had this benefit of those tree lines before you come through and start cutting trees down, and maybe get some input from that landowner or not?
It's certainly our goal to retain trees. We would like to preserve the view for both our residents and the residents there. I'm not sure I entirely understand the question or the request.
You're going to walk through your development, and you're going to identify what trees need to be torn down or taken down. All I ask is that maybe you have a conversation with the landowner in Oak Bend right now. Maybe you can't change that, but it might be a communication between them and you, or maybe
Certainly.
a suggestion. So as this gentleman here, I don't know where he lives, other than Oak Bend, that he might have a say. Or
Certainly.
we've had, let's just say we've had issues in the past where what was said and what was done were two different things. And once you cut those trees down, they're not coming back. So I understand what he's saying, and I would want the same thing. So I just want some commitment from you to at least have a dialogue with these people before they start cutting trees down.
Well, we have a gentleman here, and I'm sure the petitioner would be happy to exchange information and take any input from since these will be neighbors, obviously.
Absolutely.
And we would always encourage good communication between parties.
Absolutely.
So, and sir, if you could provide your information to Mr. Hayes. If you could provide your information to Mr. Hayes, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer your questions.
I do have a couple of questions on the letter that was submitted to us in lieu of verbal comments. Besides the tree preservation issue, they talk about drainage and traffic. So I'm going to direct this to Bill. As far as drainage goes, that is something that would be addressed at a later time when the petitioner starts designing the plot, but they have to address drainage and make sure that water does not leave the development. Is that correct?
Well, no, I mean, not leave the development. They're allowed to, matter of fact, I think state law requires that that they maintain drainage, that drainage be maintained essentially the way it has historically been. Now, we do require a preliminary drainage plan. That preliminary drainage plan is reviewed by our consulting engineer, and they review it for compliance with our ordinance and the stormwater and erosion control ordinances that we maintain. And I believe that this one meets those standards. Is that right, Greg?
Thank you. Directed to the wrong person, sorry.
Yeah, so there's a handful of items that the petitioner is required to provide at preliminary plat stage. And actually, that was one of the reasons it was continued from last month, was because we were still working on getting specifically some downstream restriction issues worked out, and had some conference calls this last week to where they have some modeling that is showing that the drainage is meeting the requirements of the ordinance. And then there's going to be detailed, they have some homework to do still, but in the detailed design. So, but for now, yeah, I'm comfortable with the primary plat.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then just the concerns about traffic on that. Bill, is there anything that you could address as far as like, I know there's concerns about traffic on Avon Avenue. And I don't know, this is not probably, that it's a bigger issue than this case here.
Well, I mean, as far as transportation and traffic is concerned, this particular plat doesn't meet the threshold to even submit a traffic study.
Okay.
So a subdivision request or a residential unit that exceeds 150 units would have to do a transportation or traffic study. This is only 43 lots.
Okay.
So it's not going to increase traffic drastically along Avon Avenue.
Okay.
You know, you look at about a car and a half during morning peak for most of the lots in there, and similar number at the evening peak. And the Avon Avenue would be able to handle that traffic.
So the last comment, I was going to say that unless we find something that does not meet our ordinances, this is not discretionary. If it meets our ordinances, we need to approve this.
Correct.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this traffic issue, if this were a rezone, you'd be entitled to study it, do a variety of things, consider traffic. In a plat, though, this landowner has a right to develop this land, and this is a plat case, and so as long as they can design it in a way that conforms, then traffic impact's really not a topic for a plat review. It is for a rezone, as you know, but I'm just reminding that you will hear that on every case you have in Avon. What about traffic? But it depends on what posture the case is as to whether staff or whether you can really jump into that issue very much.
And just as a reminder, our authority is granted to us by the state. And if you're interested in learning more about the standards for approving primary plats, you can go to Indiana Code 3674702. And you can just have a great time reading Indiana law. So.
Can I ask a question though regarding the entrance into this? Is it a boulevard type entrance into the subdivision? Or what's the egress on Avon Avenue into the subdivision?
It is not planned to be a boulevard entrance. However, we do have landscaping. We have mounting and landscaping along Avon Avenue, and then landscaping that turns the corner.
Have you considered the boulevard entrance and with an egress with a left turn to the north and a right turn to the south? Because I do travel that road on a daily basis, and there are times it is backed up to Oak Bend. So if those people who want to go, well, then you'll have your decel lanes in addition to that as well. There is a decel lane into Oak Bend, and I don't know if that would be extended further north, but it might be a little bit easier for people to get in and out of the subdivision. And the other outside the box idea was contacting a homeowner in Sugarwood to the north, acquiring that home, tear it down and make a egress ingress into that subdivision where you have two more road cuts on Avon Avenue to get out. I'm just trying to figure out ways to assist with the traffic issue, so.
But tonight, we're just here for plat approval. So.
I would say that.
You're very conscientious. We appreciate it. Okay. Did you have anything further to add with regards to the comments from the community?
I do not at this time, but thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? As Paul reminded us, plat approvals are mandatory if they meet the guidelines set forth by the ordinances. Our understanding from Mr. Peoples and the, as always, excellent staff report is that this petition does meet with the ordinances. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move we approve MAPP 22-14 Manor at Avon preliminary plat, subject to the conditions proposed in the Avon staff report on file. And looking at Dan, will that be sufficient?
I'll second.
Let's take a vote.
Paul Gutenberg,
4.
Catherine Ransford,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Dave Kaufman. 4. Bill Reed.
4.
Motion carries.
Okay. Move on to the next item. I'm assuming that's why we have such wonderful attendance here tonight. So.
So next item on the agenda is the Easton Gray PUDF 2203 Easton Gray Plan Unit Development. This is a request for approval of a final planned unit development, or a secondary approval of a planned unit development to develop housing options and pedestrian mixed-use town center with interconnected commercial, residential, civic uses, and a network of both active and passive amenities. In the Riverwalk District, this petition would establish the transportation network while for the balance of the development, it serves as a primary plat. Subsequent final master plan approvals in the form of development plan review petitions will be necessary to establish land uses within the Riverwalk District. It's a 487-acre property located north of 36 and on the south side of County Road 100 North. As I indicated, this is secondary review of the Easton Gray Planned Unit Development. Now, a secondary review of a planned unit development is consistent with a primary plat, an initial subdivision of the property. The properties were rezoned last year or earlier this year from C3, R1, R1A, and R2 to the planned unit development classification to provide for this development. That consists of a neo-urbanist town center along 36 with several distinct single-family residential neighborhoods. That was done by the town council on March 10th, and it was done under Plan Commission case number PUDP 2103. This is the areas that are in that bluish color is the planned unit development right here. 100 North, 500 here. This is Main Street. Danville's Main Street right here, and then 36 comes basically at the curve right here. As I indicated, it's a final master plan approval for the Easton Gray Plan Unit Development. It would subdivide the 487-acre property, establishing public right-of-way within the Riverwalk District, and then the remainder of the area into about 712 lots for single-family residential development. The future development of the Riverwalk District would consist of mixed use, multifamily, townhomes, and those sorts of developments require development plan approval by the Plan Commission. There's no, while you may see some of those developments in future slides, there's no really approval of the specifics in the Riverwalk District, just the layout of the streets. Now, the remainder of the property is the 712 lots. Is single-family residential development, and this does serve as the primary plat for those portions of the development.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Could somebody please close these two doors? And we do have some empty chairs if people are looking for places to sit.
The secondary, subsequent secondary plat approvals will be necessary for the single-family residential portions of the plan unit development. And it should be noted that that's an administrative process, so that would be done outside the public hearing processes that we normally have. This request went through TAC review on November 16th. Petitioner has, petitioner was handed comments from several jurisdictions, including the staff and engineering side, and the petitioner has satisfactorily addressed the TAC comments from a perspective of the UDO. This subdivision would have 9 points of ingress and egress from the public street system. Danville's Main Street, US 36, County Road 75 North, County Road 500 East, County Road 100 North. And then a secondary access will be provided through the Muirfield subdivision via Galloway Drive. Again, the total number of those points would be 9 to the public street system. Development constructed in 3 phases. I'll get to an exhibit that shows those 3 phases in the future part of this presentation. But the first development will be a central portion of the Riverwalk District with portions of neighborhoods B, C, D, and F, the single-family portions of development, and that should commence. Probably the development in those areas should commence sometime next year. The second phase would be the balance of the Riverwalk District. Additional sections of B, C, D, and E, and then finally the final phase would balance of F. The PUD ordinance does specify the development consists of approximately 40% open space. This particular proposal that they've shown is consistent with the primary master plan approval that was done by the town council and retains that 40% open space. The petitioner has met all the requirements of the plan unit development ordinance that was recorded, and with those portions of the unified development ordinance that apply to platting. This is the Riverwalk District, and you can see the initial phase is the area that's hatched right here, with a second phase in areas here and a little bit of the townhome development right there. This is the balance of the development. So the Riverwalk District is located down here in 36. The balance of the development is single family. And the orange is the first phase, the blue is the second phase, and the green is the third phase of F that would be constructed last according to the phasing plan of the plan unit development. And finally, this shows an area that of 75 that is going to be relocated essentially down this way. Currently, it basically follows the back of these lots and then comes out right about here. And that area would be vacated. There are a couple lots here. One of them needs to have access, and they show the access point through here. I have a feeling that you're probably going to hear a little bit about this in the future, so that's the reason this particular slide was put on there. We do believe that this petition meets the standards of the Unified Development Ordinance and the PUD Master Plan approval, and so we do recommend that the Plan Commission approve this request, subject to 3 conditions: that the revised plans comply with all the commitments and conditions noted as part of a future approval granted, that the project receives any necessary review and approval from Crossroad Engineers. On behalf of the town, the Hendricks County Surveyor's Office and the Hendricks County Drainage Board if required, and that the final plat comply with all relevant portions of the subdivision control law, the Unified Development Ordinance, and additional elements of the town code as necessary. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Bill, could you go back to the, yes, right there. So we had extensive conversations about that. at
During
prior
primary
meetings.
master plan approval, that's right. There was a remonstrator that had significant concerns about 75 and access through the site for his lots.
Okay.
And that has been resolved.
For the most part.
You said there were 2 properties there. That's one. What about the other one?
Well, the other one's right here, and it will have direct access. So it'll have direct access right here.
Thank you.
Questions for staff? If there are no questions for staff, we will turn to the petitioner.
All righty, well, good evening. My name is Jason Will with Bain Engineering, 853 Columbia Road, Suite 101, Plainfield, Indiana, 46168. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to present the primary plat for Easton Gray. I want to thank Bill Peoples for doing a wonderful job presenting. And we have quite the audience here today. I don't think we had this audience for our zoning hearing, so I'm going to keep this really brief, give them plenty of time to voice their concerns and their questions. And we're prepared to answer their questions and comments and concerns at the end of their time. So we'll blow through this really quickly. Everyone knows where the project is. Bill did a great job. Once again, there's 6 pretty distinct areas of Easton Gray. The first being the Riverwalk District, what we're labeling Area A. It's a mixed-use development consisting of about 71 acres, 71 acres, 186 townhomes, 400 apartments, and 100,000 square feet in mixed-use commercial, retail, and restaurants. As you move north out of the Riverwalk District, you see areas B, C, D, E, and F. Area F being probably the most significant area. It's the HOPA area, specifically designed for those 55 and older. It will have its own amenity center. If you see right there, that portion right there has been left for an amenity center just for Area F. It will have a clubhouse, pool, fitness center, pickleball, tennis courts, all the amenities that those folks would enjoy. Also, B, C, D, and E will have their own amenity center, which is located right about here. Again, it'll have a pool, clubhouse, tennis, pickleball, playgrounds for the children, just plenty of amenities for those folks to enjoy. It is a beautiful property. I'm sure Republic is going to do a fabulous job developing this piece of property as well. And with me tonight to help answer questions, raise your hand, Steve Brehub. Steve is a project manager for Banning Engineering. His specific focus on this project is the Riverwalk District. And then we have Doug Wagner with Republic Development. Doug is the Vice President of Development, and he'll be here to answer any questions you or the public might have. With that, I'm going to yield my time and be prepared to answer any questions. We'll jot down notes and be prepared to come back and answer questions that arise during the public comment section.
I would like you to talk a little bit about how these new residential developments will tie into our pre-existing trail system with our parks.
Okay, perfect. So White Lick Creek is along the east side of the property. There's the White Lick Creek Trail that runs up alongside there. I'm going to advance to a few slides in the program. I may have broke it. Oh, here we go. So this is our alter.
Sir, could you point on that map, because we can't see this.
I will try to do both. I appreciate your comment. Thank you. So we have the existing trail that runs along White Lick Creek currently, and that's really hard to see up there. I apologize, folks. But we have several trails, miles of trails that run throughout the development. There is a proposed trail that we're working with on the town that'll run actually over to Town Hall Park. That kind of runs off the page here. Are trails that follow the existing roads. There is a trail that comes down out of CD that'll cross the White Lick Creek Valley and will connect over to that trail. There's an extensive trails through F that gets you to all the amenities, gets folks from their homes to all the amenity centers throughout. There's trails along 500 that run up all the way up 500, across 100. Obviously, we don't have control of that portion. of that parcel. So that trail will stop there. There's trails across 100 across the north portion of E. And there are trails that come in and out of the Riverwalk district up to the residential areas. So plenty of trails. We're also proposing this development to be a golf cart community. So we will have rules and regulations for golf carts to be operated in and around public streets. And we'll have designated lanes for those golf carts.
And are you working with our Parks Department?
Yes, we are working with all of Avon staff.
Any further questions for the petitioner? Okay, then we will open it up to public comment. I know we have a lot of people here, and I'm sure we value all of your input. However, I would remind you that we do have limited time, and we're going to try and be generous with that this evening. But if you hear someone say something that is similar to what you were saying, we would ask that you go ahead and just allow that statement to stand for itself, and be cognizant of and be respectful of everybody's time here. So let's get started. Ian, who do we have? I'm sorry.
Bart.
Per person is what we're trying to keep it limited to, so. Okay, come forward, sir.
I hope it's gonna be short and sweet. I have no problem with this October.
Sir, we need you to stand at the podium and state your name and your address.
Darrell
please.
Barlow, 5204 East County Road 100 North.
Perfect.
Okay. On October 2021, we was at a meeting. We talked about this development, and everybody there pretty much come to an agreement. What we heard was good. No complaint. But there's been a lot of changes. A guy has died, different people take over, whatever. Okay, so my question is, number one, you still gonna have the no vinyl siding? Or two, is there still an access onto 10th Street? The 55 homes and stuff, they're still gonna be where they were? Okay, is this basically the same thing as we all agreed upon earlier? How many, no changes under the table or anything? The other thing that wasn't talked about at that meeting was, is there going to be some kind of a trash containment during this construction? So we don't have to go and pick up all the debris. And there is debris in every one of these projects. So that's pretty much it. Just wanting to make sure that everything was the same as we talked about before, because I think everything was worked out pretty good. And it looks like it's going to be a good project. I hate to see the farmland go, but it's a different story. As far as the town part, that'll be good for Avon. So that's about all I got to say.
John Schultz.
John Schulte, 157 Pinedale Drive. The two questions, when will the plans for the Riverwalk and the townhomes be finalized? The part that borders the Avondale Heights subdivision. And are the townhomes still owner occupied as they were previously? I just want to make sure those plans haven't changed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Carrie Erickson.
Good evening. Carrie Erickson, 5170 Braemar. We are the home in Muirfield Village at the corner of Braemar and Galloway. So my question is specific to what is the ETA when Galloway will be opened up and extended through into Easton Gray? It's currently the dead end. Okay, that's it.
Next.
Sorry, writing all these down. Donna, oh, she crossed out her name, it looks like. Okay. Gary and Rhonda Cassidy.
Gary Cassidy, 5158 East County Road 100 North, in Avon, Daryl's neighbor. I won't repeat what he said because, like I said, the last plot wasn't too bad. But one thing I got is this letter. We got a problem with it. It's dated December 6th, and we just got it. That says it's in the post office Saturday, so we only had one day to prepare for this. So I don't know who that is, but I think we should have been able to fight a little bit earlier. But anyway, the roads, because the last meeting we was at, they wouldn't tell us what they're going to do with County Road 100 North because they said, well, that's not us, that's the county. Well, that's a lot of our problem here. Building in Deepville, so traffic on our road has picked up tremendous because down at the very end where it curves going into Danville, they built that addition. We got so much traffic on that road now. So I'm wondering if we plan on widening it or whatever, because if they do, they're going to end up taking part of my property. So I just wondered what that's going to happen. And I guess you've talked to the schools because they're getting overcrowded too. So is there any plans for school expansion or anything like that? Because like I said, it's getting bad now. They're having to already enlarge the schools they just built. And see, one other thing, there's apartments down on Avon Avenue and 21st Street. Those, well, I got some police buddies, and they said they have a lot of problems down there because if the apartments aren't 90% filled, that they have to go to Section 8 housing. Now, they're going to build apartments in that area. Is that going to apply to that too? Because this department says they're down there with problems. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a thing where if it's not full, if they don't sell within 90% within 1 year, it goes to Section 8 housing or Section 8 apartments. And I heard that was federal. And the last thing I got is the houses, when they build them, somebody buys them, are they going to be able to rent those out, or are they going to have to be owners have to live there, or can they rent them out? And we all know what happens there. Some people take care of them, some people don't. So basically, that's all my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Next.
Pat.
Good evening. Patrick Fensel. I'm at 7888 North County Road West in Liston. I have property within the existing older established neighbor surrounding by the new development. My questions are pertaining to that. If you could put that up, are the bordering shared property lines going to have any architectural fencing between the two, or is it just going to be as it is now? And then are the utilities that surround that existing development, the older one, that have above ground power lines and like that, going to be addressed with things getting buried, any kind of, infrastructure change there? And also with there being city water in this new development, is that going to be extended and offered to the residents within that existing, community? Those are my questions, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions we're getting tonight. Next.
That was the last on my list.
Is there anybody else present who would like to ask questions who did not sign up, sir?
Waiting on my secretary. Okay, my name's Tim Johnson. I live at 5229 Braemar Court. That's in Muirfield Village. And I have a couple concerns. First of all, the project, I think, is 100% better than the proposal done by the other developer about 3 years ago. So I think Easton Gray is going to be a very good asset. But there are a couple concerns I have. One is on drainage. And
there's no pointer here. Could you bring up the map? We live on the pond in Muirfield Village, which is just south of section F. Okay. I'll try to go to this one. We live in the pond right here. This pond is a spring-fed retention pond that the homeowners around the pond pay to have it maintained to ensure the water quality. Right now, we do get some drainage from approximately 24 acres that come to the ditch. In the proposal, from my understanding, this entire section is going to be diverted with four detention ponds and then be draining into ours. The concerns I have, when you read the drainage report, the outflow is right at the maximum for this area. We've noticed in our pond right here, when there's excessive rainfall, that pond, the water level is right up to the limit. So our concern is, how can we be assured that we will not have any pond overflow from the increased water that's coming from what used to be 24 acres, now it's going to be 50, more than double. Bill has said there's a choke point, but I don't know what the choke point has been defined as. Also, this pond is, we have it designed with riprap to prevent soil erosion. And another concern we have is if there's increased flow into our pond along this area is not protected by the riprap. And if we start having pond issues, we're going to be dealing with city in this area. This is county. So I see potential, conflicts. Who's going to be responsible if our water quality goes down, or if we have erosion, or if we find that the drainage report is not quite 100% accurate and we have poor drainage out of the pond. So I think these things should be taken in consideration. Another point I have is on Galloway Street, we have sidewalks right here. And sidewalks are going to be coming from Development A. We would like to be assured that these sidewalks will be connected and not have a 5-foot in between them. I've seen that in other developments. Also have a concern about the traffic. This is a high density area, the senior living. This is a direct access through Galloway Street to Braemar. Ideally, we'd like to see this a gate put in here, but it's not going to happen, but would request it. At minimum, would there be a speed bump to help slow down traffic through this area, because this is a nice, quiet neighborhood. And I think I covered all my points. If we do, have earlier on, which I would like to have, some kind of commitment from the developer to line the rest of our pond and bear the expense of, if down the road that the water levels rise above our current riprap.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is we treat these ponds so there's no algae growth in them. There's going to be 4 detention ponds up in here. Are these ponds going to be treated, or are we going to get outflow for untreated water from the lawn products going into ours.
Okay.
And question I have is, if we do run into difficulty, what entity is responsible? City, county, or do we have a fight?
Oh, that would never happen.
No, and I think, the whole reason for this is to try to look forward and to set some guidelines down and who's responsible for what, and try to avoid problems down the road. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else present who would like to speak on this particular agenda item? Yes, sir.
William Carter, 1380 North County Road, 600 East, Avon. My question is the city and the county working together to address all the additional traffic that's going to be coming down 10th Street? Also 600, both ways coming from the schools, and also the traffic that is coming because people divert going down Avon Avenue, Old 267. They come across 21st Street down 600. It's causing a lot of traffic issues right now. One portion of the 600 going into 150 is rated at 30 miles an hour. Once you go from 150 to 600 traveling down to 10th Street, it increases to 40 miles an hour. There's a pretty nasty little curve right there off of the 600, pretty much right in front of our house and our neighbor's house. And we've had a lot of close calls by people not paying attention and trying to come in and out. Now, I understand that those are county roads, but I'm just wondering, is the city working with the county to address those issues? So the poor bridge going across White Lick there on 10th Street, all that additional traffic is going to take a toll on that. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this agenda item? Yes, sir. And I think we'll make this the last one since we are over our public comment period already, so.
Good evening. My name is Joe Picar. I live at 470 North County Road 500 East, Avon. Can I have the map again, please? That was up. Yeah, perfect. Our concern with the whole project concern, we come out of F, the rectangle, or the rectangle at the lower. Our driveway comes out and we look right at the field. So what I was wondering, Mr. Banny might be over wherever you went. Your trucks, I saw your trucks out there the other day, or maybe a month ago or better. And I noticed you had painted a pink line going across the road, headed right to our property where there's a nice little swale.
Sir, you need to make your comments to the.
Well, I was addressing him, so I thought, okay, great.
No, I did address them. Just, you can ask the question or raise.
Okay, I got you. So my concern is what that pink line represents. Do you know?
The petitioner will be able to respond to all the comments when we're finished up here.
And what it does, because when we went to the first meeting, I think Randy was brought up and the man said it was going to focus going towards the east as much as possible. So I wonder where that leaves off on the west side of the development. And if that's the case, are they planning on using our property to drain what they can through there? And if so, where does their responsibility end? Does it end at 500 East, or does it end down here at Abner Creek? Because of the erosion, someone brought up erosion problem. Well, that's definitely going to create some, where it stops is a big time, erosion problem. And the only other one question I have is, are the houses where they said it would, going to be mostly brick and all this, is that changed at all? So I called Easton Gray right after that meeting, asked, because I had people, I was telling about the subdivision coming in, 55 and older, perked their ears up. And they said, do you have any illustrations of the houses that were going to be built there? And I said, so I called them and he said, well, it's too early to tell yet what we're putting in there. We don't have anything, a picture that I could send you. So I wonder if that's changed now. Do they have anything that people can see what's going in there so they can, because the last subdivision there that they had with the 28 acres or whatever, there was a lot of questions raised and this panel had no idea, windows, all kinds of different things that were asked. And I thought, how can you approve something? And these guys sit here and they don't even know the answer to those questions. So I'm concerned about if anything's changed on the other end for this thing. So those are the two questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will close the public hearing section of this agenda item. And if the petitioner would like to come forward and address the very excellent questions that we had from our community.
Can I have the slides placed back on the screen, please? All right, yes, I would agree. Very good questions. And I appreciate the members of the audience coming out and participating in our meeting this evening. So I'll work my way down. I may hit a few of those, the same comments as we get there. So Daryl's comments were, he was really happy with what he heard originally. We've not deviated from that one bit. We've stuck to our plans. If anything, we've enhanced the plan since we've last met. I believe there's still no vinyl in the entire development. Access onto 10th Street, the only access onto 10th Street, this thing works, is there's a location on section E or area E that lines up directly across from the church. There's a church on the north side of 10th Street. Our access lines up directly with theirs. So that's the only access out onto 10th Street.
That's the church at the bottom of the hill.
Yes, yes, sir. The 55 and older community is exactly where we had it planned originally.
Another question, just for clarity.
Sure.
75th Street, you're going to reroute it. That will still connect and come on down to 600, right?
Yes, sir. So I'm going to try to use this pointer as best I can. So 75 is right just north of those lots there and continues on the north side of those lots. So we're going to relocate that road to come a little bit south so we can get lot sides of that road now. That road on the north side as it stands, it just basically falls off down that ravine. So we're trying to be wise stewards of the land. So relocate that road so we can get obviously more lots, and less infrastructure, more lots, right? So great question. Trash containment, Doug. I think with there's a new general stormwater construction permit that requires all on-site dumpsters to be covered now, and that's effective as of this last January, I believe, Doug. Yep.
You need to, if
Come
you're
on,
going to
Doug.
speak, yes.
Obviously,
And could you just
my name
state
is
your
Doug Wagner. I'm with Republic Development. I live at 14930 Trotter Court, Westfield, Indiana.
Thank you.
Most of the trash is generally going to be builder driven, and all the builders are going to be having to follow Avon's standards in regards and the state standards in regards to trash containment. Let me either have dumpsters or fenced in areas and things like that. So I can't make promises that trash will not get away, because on a very windy day, trash gets away. But what we'll have to do, and we've been doing it on all of our projects, is just try to be good stewards and try to stay after the builders to keep it picked up. And I can't say we've never had complaints, but we typically are very responsive of getting the trash picked up once, if and when it does blow. And that's usually on the windy days. It's just hard to stop it.
Thanks, Doug. Doug, while you're here, there was a question about townhomes, owner occupied.
Yeah, the plan has not changed in that regard. We do have apartments that are going to be rental, but most of the townhomes, which are over, you see the B2, yeah, right in that area, right in there. Those are the owner occupied townhomes, and that will remain owner occupied.
All right, thanks, Doug. Okay, there was a couple questions about the construction schedule, and while we are throwing up our best guess, this is our phasing plan. You can see the orange areas are scheduled to start next year, 2023, with the latest start being 2024. The blue areas, planned start would be at the earliest would be 2024. The latest start would be 2026. And then the green area, the earliest it would start would be 2025, with the latest start being 2028. Now, these are, we're with interest rates rising, things are slowing down just a tick. So these may be stretched out. We may be experiencing things that we experienced in 07, 08, and 09, where the housing market slows way down. So these are our best guess. So that answers the construction schedule. There was a question about connecting to Muirfield Village. Obviously, we just spoke about that, and we would be connecting that sidewalk. There would be no gap between the two sidewalks. We would connect those sidewalks up.
I have a quick question. So,
Yes, sir.
based on the schedule, then is it that connection to Galloway? I think they were talking about when that would be opened up. Is that like 3+ years out?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
Well, while you're there too on that.
Yes, sir.
Someone talked about a speed bump. Has there been any consideration made about that?
We have not made any consideration. If that's something the town would entertain, I'm sure the developer would. If that's what the town wanted and the homeowners wanted.
Again, Doug Wagner, obviously no gate, but the speed bump would be an option. We have found most Department of Public and traffic street departments do not like speed bumps because they tear up the snow plows, things like that. There's a lot of negative aspects to it, so typically they're not wanted. But a speed bump at that location is not necessarily going to be harmful to us, and we would be willing to put that in if that's what came down to it. But we typically don't recommend them. What we try to do is design the properties in a way that traffic is managed just naturally, and you don't have to go to those type of means to do that. So we would prefer not to.
There was questions about the school and if we've been in contact with the school. Yes, we have been in contact with the school. They were at our technical review hearing, and we will continue to work with them as this project progresses.
One thing I'll add to that too is all areas that you see are age restricted. So they're 55 and older. So the bigger chunk of this property is not going to be generating school kids, but it is going to be generating, money. So I think from a school standpoint, the project works very well.
So maybe a clarity question to clarify that. So age restricted 55 and older doesn't mean there won't be kids. So are there no kids allowed, or is it just you can only purchase at 55 and older?
I think that the Hope rule guidelines basically stay out there for emergency purposes. They have to find another means for the very short period of time. So yeah, there are basically no kids.
Okay, thank you.
They're not there for an entire year.
Okay.
Dan, can you provide any clarity on that? No? Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
There are regulations and they are what they are. We can't change them, we can't deal with it, but generally they're age restricted. We've dealt with this before, and so.
I was just
And
wanting
that's
to, so that people would understand what age restricted means.
Yeah. Well, as you know, at the PUD release, this was discussed, and age restricted, there are federal regulations that impose requirements on developers who want to develop them. And the aspect of the impact on schools was considered at the time of the PUD. This is a plat review. And again, I think that the developer knows that they're under the onus of complying with any laws that apply to them. But again, it's not really an issue for this hearing.
Thank you. Was there anything else you wish to add to this?
I would like to address a few more comments, if I may.
Oh, okay, we have more. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Quite a few more. So Pat came up and spoke about the property. It would be Price's Avondale Heights. and what we're going to do on the perimeter. So there is buffer yards, there's a 20-foot buffer yard all the way around Avondale Heights. For the existing utilities, our plan is not to touch the existing utilities. They're on their property or on the common property line, so we have no real business handling those. He also asked about water service. We will make water service available within the community. Be citizens, energy group, their responsibility to extend it further into that community if they saw fit in doing that.
So would it be safe to say 2 yards or whatever, but I get it, you're not going to provide it to them, I understand that, but how close would it be?
It will run through our development, through the streets, along the streets of our development. So that's about as close as it's going to get. So if you look on next to Area D, there'll be water that'll run up through there. So if there was an easement or something that could punch through and get into that community, they could do that. There were several comments about drainage. I'm glad they asked. If you happen to be here, we talked about drainage pretty extensively, and I put together a few slides to talk about drainage in particular, and in particular the drainage that goes to Muirfield Village. And since then, we've met with the county surveyor's office. We actually last Tuesday we presented our plan to the county surveyor and the drainage board, the Hendricks County Drainage Board, and we received preliminary approval through the drainage board to proceed with our plan. So these are the existing drainage basins as they are today. And you can kind of see that the majority of this yellow portion here runs over towards Whitelet Creek. We've got a portion here in orange that would be Basin 10 that runs west under 500. We've got basin number 9 in the kind of the purplish color here that also runs west under 500. And then we've got basin 8 in the red. It runs east into Avondale Heights. And then this last little portion, basin number 7, runs southeast into Muirfield Village. And so just some random storm events. What we look at is the 2-year storm event, the 10-year storm event, and the 100-year storm event. So in a 100-year storm event, 6.3 inches fall in 24 hours. And so according to weather.gov, the average rainfall depth in Indianapolis area during the spring season over the last 20 years is 4.7 inches. So we're over the spring months, we rarely see a 100-year event total. Okay, so we talk about peak discharges and what's allowed, or what this is what is currently being released from each of those locations at the different rain events. So basin number 7 that goes down to Muirfield Village, we're going to focus on this one in particular. In a 2-year event, there is 34.7 CFS. So what's a CFS? Cubic foot per second, okay? And I'm thinking, how do I explain this to people? And so they get a real good visual. So the average US refrigerator is 20 to 25 CFS or cubic feet, okay? So at basin 7 during a 2-year event, the peak runoff is about a refrigerator and a half per second. So refrigerator and a half running down that swale into Muirfield Village's pond, okay? And the 10-year, it's about 2 to 3 refrigerators per second running down through there. And at your event, there is 4 to 5 refrigerators per second running down through to Muirfield Village right now, currently in the existing conditions before we come in, okay? So what's Avon require? Avon requires that our post-developed peak runoff for a 10-year event shall not exceed the current pre-developed 2-year event. And that our 100-year event, or that the post-development 100-year cannot exceed the 10-year, okay? That's what Avon's standard is, okay? Someone asked, whose jurisdiction is this? Well, this is Hendricks County's jurisdiction. That's why we went to the Drainage Board. The Drainage Board is also going to assess if you remember Area F, the south portion of Area F, each one of those lots are going to be assessed $100 for maintenance of that drain in Muirfield Village. Okay, so when those houses are built, they'll get an annual assessment of $100 per year to maintain that drain in Muirfield Village. And that'll go to the regulated subdivision. The county regulates that. So we're held to their release rates. And this is interesting. So our post-developed peak rate for a 10-year event must not exceed 0.039 CFS per acre. Okay, that's like nothing, folks. And I'm going to show you that. And then our 100-year cannot exceed 0.115 CFS per acre in the development. Okay, so these are our basins. These are our developed basins. So everything in orange, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Everything in orange, we are now held to that same release rate that our 100-year can't exceed the 10-year. But everything in red is going to head down. That gentleman was correct. Everything in red is going to head down to Muirfield Village now. Now, someone asked about 500. There will be a little rainfall that'll drop on our mound. We're going to have a 4 to 6 foot mound along 500. Any rain that falls on the top of that mound and goes to the west will continue to travel as it does currently, under 500. So we're talking a little bit. We're cutting it by probably 95%. What currently goes under 500, cutting it almost totally off. So I show this slide to just show you what it looks like if we were to match Avon's standard, right? So you can see just basin 7, and currently we're taking basins 7, 8, and 9, but we cannot add all those up. We only can look at what's currently being released in basin 7. So we look at basin 7, there's 34.7 in the 2-year, our 10-year can't exceed it, and it's at 26.2. Our 100-year, 42.9, currently it's at 60. So we've already cut it, and that's the Avon standard. That's not even the standard we're held to.
Avon standard is lower than the county standard. Is that what you're saying, or higher?
Higher. Well, depends on how you look at it. Avon allows you to release more. Avon allows you to, Hendricks County makes us release less. Okay, so in that 10-year, basin 7 releases 60.3. Once again, that's 2-3 refrigerators coming down through there. We're holding it back. We are detaining the water back to 1.1 CFS. That's a trickle, folks. They're gonna ask, where did the water go? We're holding back so much.
Where is the water going?
It's being detained in our ponds. That's why we have 4 ponds in that development.
4 ponds, okay.
So we're going to detain it and we're going to release it at a slow rate.
So those waters that are now currently going into Muirfield Village will go into
Our ponds.
your ponds.
They will be detained and they will be released at a much slower rate. So that's the drainage wrapped up in a nutshell, real quick. Right? We are exceeding their expectations. They'll be thrilled with how little water is now coming to them. And then the last couple of comments. So we are working closely with the city and the town of Avon and the county on all matters, whether it be drainage, traffic, schools, the whatnot. We're all working really well. And I can tell you the town staff has been great to work with, from Bill Peoples to Steve Moore. Everyone's been great to work with. They're really responsive, answer our questions, meet with us when we want to meet. And they've been great. We really appreciate it. Joe asked about a pink line. The pink line, the only thing I can think of is, we do TOPA. We had a graphic survey, and I think I sent our crews out to do some topographic work. And what they like to do is they'll do cross sections, 50-foot cross sections. So what that pink line was probably where to start, and then 50, and then do another cross section. So that's about the only thing I can think of. We have not done any state laying out, so that's the only thing I can think of. It was either a control or some kind of marking for our topographic survey. And no real changes, no changes in the architectural standards that were presented during zoning. So, and
The gentleman talked about the apartments, 90% in Section 8 housing.
I've got a few, I was gonna say, I got a few things that we haven't quite covered. So, there is no Section 8 apartments. You have to actually apply to those, and we're not doing that. There are, as far as rental of the homes, we cannot gauge that. All of our homes will be for sale. We will not sell any homes. It has been, it's unusual for brand new subdivisions to have a lot of rentals because the cost of the homes are just a lot higher than the existing homes in the area. So it's very difficult to make the dollars work on a rental basis when you're paying today's prices on construction costs. But as a rule, we do not prohibit rentals throughout our communities. There are hardships for homeowners. Somebody loses their job, they've got to get out of the house or they're going to lose it. And the only way to save it is to rent it. You know, we try not to gauge that. So we do not prohibit that, but I do not anticipate much rentals. So I think that was that. Apartments, Section 8. Yeah, we do not have Section 8 apartments. And then the only other thing I think really was, we will treat our ponds for algae. The only other thing really is traffic. And there were two or three different comments about traffic. We spent hours during our zoning talking about traffic. We did a traffic study. The traffic study was accepted by the town. In fact, before we did the traffic study, we had a meeting to talk about which intersections in this area. And we did reach out. I don't know all the surrounding streets that well because I don't live in this area, but we did 267 and 100. That intersection, I mean, we went that far out on that location, but we did 8 or 9 intersection studies in the area, came up with specific improvements, came up with dollar values on that improvement, ultimately came up with an agreement with the town that amounted to a little over $1,000 per lot that we agreed to pay to the town, and the town will make the improvements on a given timeline based on our agreement. So there are improvements being made. Most of them are turn lanes, things like that at the intersections, things like that. So that's I mean, that was all worked out during zoning and is the agreement that we have with the town.
While you were doing your traffic study, this gentleman did mention the bridge on 10th Street that goes over White Lick Creek. And I'm sure there's weight limits on that, so.
Yeah, I mean, none of our improvements would involve that. We're not making improvements to 10th Street. That was one of the questions. Where we do have turn lanes and things on the roads approaching 10th Street, but 10th Street itself, we do not. They are talking about doing something at 600 and 10th Street right there, but they'll shift it a little bit to the east or west. So
10th Street is, yeah.
Yeah.
Along way above it and have it annexed, it belongs to us where it's on both sides. It's the county, it's the county's provision. So elementary school, for instance, there on both sides of 10th Street.
Well, and technically that little piece of property that is out there, that little stretch in front of that property is county.
Yeah.
Everything on the other side of it is town.
A couple other things I did have written down. One of the gentlemen said mostly brick homes. We've never really committed to mostly brick homes. We committed to no vinyl. Our PUD says 40% masonry on the front elevation. Those homes will meet that, and they will not have vinyl on the other areas. So we will match and meet our PUD. As far as what do we have homes to show you to date? No, we do not. Until we get to that point where we get our construction plans done, we can put together the pricing, that we have an idea what the lot pricings are going to be. We don't lock in contracts with builders. So until we have a builder locked in, we do have builders in mind. We've got builders that are very interested in that are very likely going to be at the builder. But until you have a contract signed, we typically don't name names of builders, any kinds of floor plans and things like that until we have that contract.
Do you anticipate locking in with a handful of builders, allowing custom homes with custom builders?
We have talked to some custom builders for Area E. Nothing's been finalized, but that is the higher end product that it would be. We have talked to 2 or 3 different builders for areas D, C, or B, C, and D as well. F will most likely be one builder.
Any further questions for the petitioner?
Did you talk about the fencing between the properties? I think you did when you were talking about Avondale.
No fencing, but there will be a landscape buffer.
Okay. And then the only other thing I have, I don't think the gentleman mentioned, the letter was dated 12/6 and he just received it.
So we submitted our certified mailings per the state regulations, and they were mailed in a timely manner. So I can't control what the post office does after we put them in the mail.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion.
Well, I think that the petitioner's answer to all these questions, and I'm satisfied. I just want to qualify, as we've talked, there's the town and there's the county. And the county's in Muirfield, which has an impact on your drainage area. That's their responsibility, not like I'm saying we're just going to turn our back and not listen to you. That's not what we want to do, the town itself. But, you know, as the gentleman did indicate, you're probably going to get assessed. And if I understand this correctly, $100 a year that goes into their drainage pool, but not fund that. And I think they capture maybe different basins with those dollars. So those dollars can only be used for that specific basin. So the $100 that he's getting from each homeowner goes into that Muirfield basin. I'm not saying that there's going to be enough money there, but there's going to be some attention to those people in that subdivision. But we will do whatever we can to work with the county and even Danville on 100 North. You got Danville, you got county, you got Avon, and we all use the road and we all have different responsibilities. So I think you indicated we've talked with them and we'll continue to do so. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The questions and the concerns that were brought forward, and then the petitioner, as they've answered that. The one thing is like, it lumps into traffic, and traffic is always a concern in any development, and something that concerns us all in Avon, because it continues to decrease, and we're all going to be concerned about that. So it's good to hear that. The drainage, the schools, the building materials, all good questions. I didn't hear anybody say, didn't want the development. It's like a kind of the underlying theme, development's good, just questions about what we don't know yet. And I thought the petitioner did a good job of providing answers on what they could provide answers on. I understand about the building materials, but I appreciate what you said about that. But I feel like the petitioner has at least made a good faith effort to come with information. And I appreciate the detailed information on the drainage. It's almost like you enjoyed that. So I'm glad you provide that information, because that is a concern. And we see that a lot. And I'm glad that you guys are looking to address that. And it's good to hear that you're working with all the different departments as you do this development, because we do want it to be a good development. And I would encourage anybody in the audience that it sounds like the petitioner is willing to talk to you if you reach out to them. And I would encourage you to do that if you have any questions here. We're going to have the concerns between the town and the county. And that's just an ongoing item that will have to be addressed unless for some reason areas become part of the town. So I thought the staff did a good job, and the petitioner has done a good job explaining the development for this. That's all I have to say.
I agree. I think, as always, our staff does an excellent job of presenting the petitions to us and explaining to us and tying everything together. I do appreciate the thoroughness of your willingness to answer questions from our community. And I appreciate all of you asking the questions that you did. It's very often these meetings, we have a lot of empty chairs up there, and it's really wonderful to see everybody involved. And I thought all of the questions asked were really thoughtful and addressed the issues and and were questions that warranted answers. And I just want to say, as a member of this, president of this commission, I'm very grateful that we have a community that's so involved in as we develop and grow. This is as we mentioned earlier, this is a must approve if the petition meets all of the requirements. And I believe that aside from the technical requirements that this petitioner has made great efforts to try and make sure they're not only in compliance, but are enhancing the requirements of this petition and of our UDO requirements. Any further discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve PUD F 23-03, the Easton Gray Final Master Plan approval, subject to the conditions proposed in the Avon staff report on file.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Four.
Four.
Dave Coffin.
Four.
Bill Reed.
Four.
Very good. Thank you. Next. Report of administrative approvals by the planning director.
When I had put that on the agenda, I had two items that I thought I was going to administratively approve between the time I sent the agenda out and the time the meeting held.
I would like to ask everyone to please keep your voices down and take your conversations outside of the room, please. The meeting is still going on.
Neither one of those petitions have cleared our drainage review. And so I don't have any approvals, administrative approvals.
Okay. Committee reports.
Board of Zoning Appeals didn't meet, so the Board of Zoning Appeals has nothing.
Okay.
RDC.
RDC.
RDC at our most recent meeting, in addition to approving invoices as presented, we also were given a County Road 100 South update and also approved our 2023 meeting schedule.
Okay. Any further committee reports? Town council?
Well, that's right. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to, Mr. Bill, have we met the deadline for boards and commissions, applications? Has that already passed?
I don't think so. No, I mean, we accept applications for boards and, are you talking about for the next meeting?
Correct.
Yeah, that's already passed.
That's
The
already
next
passed.
one is the 6th of January for the February meeting.
Okay. Okay, great.
And
I
we
was just
have-
going to encourage people to put in applications for boards and commissions if they've not already done so, but we've already met that deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we have taken action on it.
January
2nd.
January 2nd is the deadline?
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody's interested in serving on any boards and commissions,
Oh, okay.
you can go to our website and read all about it. Any other business for the good of the order? When is our next meeting, Mr. Peoples?
22nd, 23rd?
Oh, look at there, it's
23rd.
right up there. Okay.
23rd, 6:30.
All right, very good. Last meeting of the year, well done. Thank you to the commission and to the members for all their hard work. I certainly appreciate it. And we will see you next year. If there's no objection, meeting adjourned.